where some of you are like, yeah, I've got these intentions, and you're going to take action, you're going to encounter a little bit of pain. So let me prep you for that, right? When you choose to move forward with LCA Nurture, you're going to take your contacts from wherever they are and load them into the system so that we can send out messaging. For some of you, you're like, oh, that's too much pain. I guess I just won't reach out to these people. So let me help you overcome that hurdle. I'm going to share another link with you. It's happygrasshopper.com/white glove. You can book a one-on-one call with a member of my staff who will help you export your contacts from wherever they are and import them into LCA Nurture so you're ready to send out your messaging.
All right. Well, welcome, LabCoatAgents. I'm very excited to be here today with Dan Stewart with Happy Grasshopper. It's going to be an amazing thing today. We're going to talk about facing some fears. So anybody who's actually honest, I tell stories about how I was scared to death to call my first lead. So, Dan's going to cover some of that stuff and give us some great opportunities to look at the fourth quarter and going into 2022, which is a scary thing to say out loud that we're looking at 2022. But a couple administrative things. So we're going to have a deal for you today to get involved with Happy Grasshopper, amazing company. I've worked with them for years. And then also, if you hear today, you're going to want, and will be on our YouTube channel so you can watch it as many times as you need. So without any further ado, I want to pass over to Dan with Happy Grasshopper.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And hello, everybody. I'm excited for today because quite frankly, fear is something we all have to deal with. And every year, as soon as we hit October, I think about, man, Halloween's just around the corner. I think about how exciting it is when you're a kid, and as a parent, to have kids who get so excited and engaged around this idea of scaring people. Ooh, and how much fun that is. Like, let's dress up and get fangs and blood and scare mom and dad or your brother and sister, whoever it may be. And then, at some point, childhood ends, right? You move into this adult world, you have real responsibilities, and yet fear is still there for a lot of people, riding in the backseat all the time. And, I'll be totally transparent with you guys. I'm comfortable saying I have dealt with extreme amounts of fear in my life. I believe we all do if we're going to admit it. Like, Brian, have you ever had a real scary situation in your life where you thought, ooh, I might not survive this?
Yeah, I have more times than I wish to. I mean, that's just the reality, right? So it's all relative for everybody. So, that's one of the things I firmly believe, Dan, is that a lot of people, well, I've been through more than this. Well, it doesn't matter what you went through. This is how I felt it. This is what was scary for me, right? Yeah. And so it's definitely relative to our experiences for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And sooner or later, I mean, all of us who live long enough, we're going to have that moment where we have to face the fact we don't get to do this forever, right? We don't get to do this forever. So let's take advantage of the time we have. And if there are goals we're really committed to achieving, let's achieve them. Let's do that. Mm-hmm. Let's handle this fear stuff and get it out of the way so we can really live life at the level we want to live. Now, those of us who are pursuing a career in real estate, or in my case, serving people who are pursuing those careers, we know what this pattern is. It's the old feast and famine cycle that takes place in real estate. And, for those of you who may be at the front of your career, it's all about doing the things you need to do. You get super active to where you can get the business, get the closings, have the transactions, and then you're so busy doing that you don't have time left to do the work that got you busy in the first place. And so, it's peak, valley, peak, valley, peak, valley. And you're going to feel moments of fear when you're on that cycle. Like, it is unavoidable. Any of you who've left a stable career to pursue a career in real estate, you've got guts already. Like, that's there. Those basic ingredients are there. And yet that does not mean that you're going to be immune from encountering fear along the way. So wherever you are in your career, whether you're $1 million GCI earner or you're thinking, ooh, I can't wait to do my first transaction, there's a few things you're going to encounter along the way. And my job today is to knock those barriers out of your way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And yes, that is a basic blank Mac screen. Exciting, right? Can you see that, Brian? Did it pop up?
I can.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing. It was a great webinar.
Yes.
Oh, wait,
Okay. Awesome. We're done. That was great. That's great. So the title of our session today is Face Your Fears and Close More Deals. That's really what it's all about. There are times in our lives where we get in our own way. And I like to call this pattern that most of us can relate to, I like to call it the cycle of suck, right? Because this is what it looks like. You're here with us live now, right? You arrived with some intentions. You have intentions. You're going to do some stuff, right? Whatever those things are that you take away, they turn into actions of some type. And then inevitably, when you're doing things that are new, they feel a little bit uncomfortable. You encounter some resistance. We call that pain, and you stop, right? That's the pattern that stops us from moving forward, from breaking through our growth plateaus. So, if you've been to a national conference, if you've engaged in real estate coaching, if you've subscribed to a training series to make your business more successful, if you've adopted new technology, if you're working on learning a new sales script and process, you've encountered this. It's very normal. We all do this. The problem is most of us stop when we experience pain. And then at some point we recharge and we say, okay, it's time to start again. But we haven't resolved our issues around that pain. And so the cycle repeats. If we're going to beat that cycle, if we're going to stop it, we have to recognize that it's really our fear of what might happen that stops us from moving forward. At some point, we're going to generate those powerful intentions again. We're going to say, all right, these are the actions I'm going to take. And then our brain is going to say, well, remember that pain you felt last time? Maybe we shouldn't do this, right? And you get stuck in inaction. It prevents you from moving forward. So my goal today is to help you through this, to break through this and just leave it behind you so you can get on a better path, which I call the path of mastery. Now, on this path, we're not going to do everything. We're going to narrow our focus. We're going to constrain it to some things we understand that we are going to commit to. And when I say commit to, I mean that. Not, oh yeah, I'll work out, I'll join the gym. But no, I'm going to get up every day at 5 a.m. I'm going to be at the gym every day at 5:30 a.m. I'm going to hire a trainer who meets me there at 5:30 a.m. and calls me if I'm late. There's varying levels of commitment that we bring to things. And whatever those actions are, they need to be taken in such a way that they can be measured, right? So if you did join that gym, how many days did you show up, right? That can be counted, it can be measured. So whether it's lead generation, number of dials you're making to prospects, FSBOs, expireds, whatever it might be, whether it's door knocking, you're out there doing it, whether it's leads you're generating, whether it's calls to past clients, all of these things can be measured. And when you measure them, you get the gift of predictable results. That is the way to run a business. It's to know these are my inputs, these are my outputs. It's not a mystery. There's nothing about selling real estate today that's a mystery. There's nothing about building whatever size career you intend to build that hasn't been done by someone else. There's no need to guess, right? So, yeah. I mean, you can tell how energized I get about this because in a lot of ways, this has been the story of my life. There was a time when I was terrified to host a webinar. I literally could not sleep the night before if I was going to present to an audience. It was like churning guts. It was just a miserable experience all the way around. And now I look forward to it. I can't wait to get here and share some things I know that make a big difference.
So Dan, let's talk about that real quick before you move any further, because I can have the same experience. My experience was I was scared to death to pick up a phone, and that's not real good in real estate, not being scared to death to pick up a phone. So, but right now, I mean, you and I spoke earlier. I didn't hesitate to give you a call and say, hey, Dan, we're going to do this webinar, and you'd sent me an email. I appreciate that. But what's different, so because there are so many people watching this right now and go, great, Dan, that's awesome for you that you conquered that, but I can't get over it. I can't do it. So I think that's something that maybe we could just share. And first of all, I want to share, I'm vulnerable. I did it too. There's stuff I've been scared to death to do that I do right now, like just waking up in the morning. So, what did you do? What was different?
Thank you for asking. Because, there is a path through this that exists for everyone. And it's the same. The way to get through it is to first really understand what fear is. It's a response, right? It's a response to inputs. And fear actually can be very helpful at times, right? So, if I open the door and step outside and there's a snake on the ground, I'm thankful for the fear that I feel because it's energized my body to get me the heck out of there, right? That's a good example of that sense of fear. In most cases, fear is not helpful. In most cases, it's tremendously harmful. And, not only is it hurting your career, it's hurting your relationship, it's hurting your experience of getting to be alive right now. We've all had experiences with fear in our life that show up as this sense of dread. Like, ooh, how are we going to get through this? If we ever get to a point where we feel just so dreadful about the existence we're in, we have to recognize that that's rooted in self-doubt. The fundamental persevering human fear that extends throughout humanity is this question of whether or not you're actually enough. That's the fear that prevents us from taking action a lot of times because we're afraid to find out we're not good enough. I mean, what if I actually do go to the gym every day and meet that trainer and I still can't lose the weight? I'm going to hate myself if that's the experience. What if I hire a real estate coach and I commit to making the calls and I put the systems and the processes in place and it doesn't work, right? Oh my gosh, then I've spent all that money. I've had all these anticipations. It's this loop that we get stuck in that's just, quite frankly, it's shitty thinking. I'll say it. Most of the things we're afraid about never actually happen. They just don't. And I'll tell you a quick story about this, Brian, and everybody else too. When I was a kid, my father had a pretty awesome opportunity. His boss had just inherited a sailboat, and my father was an experienced boater. So he volunteered to sail that from Isla Mirada up around the coast of Florida to Sarasota. And that was going to be our family vacation. It was going to be amazing. And unfortunately, he ran into a reef, John Pennycamp Park, just off Isla Mirada, knocked a hole in the side of the boat. It sunk to the bottom very quickly, and we had just a little bit of sailboat left to stand on. And, even though we could see shore, it was too far to swim back. And even though there were boats coming right towards us almost constantly, they were all turning to go around the reef. We were waving our arms and screaming, and they were not stopping for us. So, in the morning, they were all coming out. And then in the evening, they were all coming back and they just didn't see us. So, pretty soon the tide came in and the water started rising, and we didn't have any sailboat to stand on that could keep us out of the water. And, what is a reef famous for? Well, having tons of fish and lots of bigger fish that eat those fish. We had seen sharks all throughout the day, and we were absolutely terrified that we were going to be eaten that night. I was, this is the summer after second grade, right? So this is kind of like a formative experience. And at the time, it was this sense of certainty that I was not going to survive the night, that any minute now I was going to get pulled under. And looking back, what I take away from it now is that the fear I really experienced, I created for myself. Those sharks were not interested in us. There was plenty to eat on the reef that they didn't have to fight with a sailboat to get to, right? Those sharks were there, right? They existed in the water with us, but they never came in to eat us. It did not happen. And most of the things that stop us from taking action in our business also will not happen, right? So, whatever it is that you're thinking might happen if you reach for that big goal, chances are you're not going to experience the worst of what you're thinking. So I'm going to ask you to lean into trust, to faith, to whatever it is that supports you, and have some certainty about the fact that you deserve to achieve the success that you're looking for.
Love that.
Fear has been such a lifelong topic for me from that experience, that about 10 years ago, when I started Happy Grasshopper, I realized that so many people are afraid to keep in touch with the people in their database, because have you ever felt that way? What if that past client?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't, yeah. You're like, oh crap, I didn't call that person when I was going to call them, and now it feels too far away. And what's going to happen if I call them? Are they going to remember me? Yeah, there's all those things. And, we run a pretty successful team, and, we'll do close to 500 sides this year, but I still have fear, and I want people to know that, because I think it's important. I think sometimes people go, oh, you've been doing this, or you do good at this, you don't have any fears. No, I still have fears. I'm sure you still have fears. Maybe they're not webinars, but you have other ones. What do? You just do it. And I know that sounds really like a very corny thing, but maybe Dan will talk about some tricks, but there are tricks to tricking yourself into doing it too. But once you've done stuff for a while, it's just not as scary. You realize that you open up underneath the hood, and there's not a monster in there. So
yeah, the thing you have to do is start, right, and then recognize, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and
Absolutely.
then make that part of a habit, right? Think of any accomplished athlete. Like our youngest, Emily, she's 12 years old. She's a nationally competitive gymnast. And I watch her do things that I just cannot believe physics allows. And I know there are times when she's really got to process a lot of fear and uncertainty about whether or not it's safe to acquire a new skill. So, I want to leverage my understanding of fear to help each of you acquire a new skill that allows you to have the transactions that you're looking for.
Awesome.
And, part of the way that we're going to do that is with something I call the Eat a Bug, Get a Shirt challenge. Okay. And this is actually really fun. See my t-shirt? I have a ton of them. And all you have to do is go to happygrasshopper.com/eat-a-bug-challenge. And there are hyphens between Eat a Bug Challenge. And Jake, I know you've got that link. If you can pop it in the chat for everybody, that'd be great. I will send you one of these shirts, and I will send you a delicious, nutritious, approved by the FDA in Thailand, chocolate Thailand. Yeah. So it is actually a cricket. It's a dry roasted cricket coated in milk chocolate. And one of my favorite things to do at trade shows is to pass these out and watch people eat them. And it creates a real memorable moment. And, almost universally, they discover it's just not as bad as they thought it was. Some people say it tastes just like a Kit Kat bar. Other people think, I've tried to kill them by having them eat this little bug. So if you want to get in on the Eat a Bug, Get a Shirt challenge, we'll have that link here in the chat for you soon.
And for the record, no one's died from the challenge. So
no one that we know of, no one we know of has died of the challenge. So that's a good thing. So let's shift to today's market. Like, I love to have fun, but now I want to get really serious and help the people who are here with us really take what we're using, what we're talking about today, and apply it. So we've had some unprecedented market conditions. For sure. Most markets have had ridiculous scarcity of inventory. Buyer's agents are often working harder than they ever have before to have fewer contracts accepted. We've had the uncertainty of COVID and how the market would react to that. There's been so much that's been unprecedented just over the last 1.5 to 2 years. And that environment will wear on us. Like, it will wear people out. So you've got to expect that and say, well, that's the condition we're in. We've got to embrace those conditions and move through them. So what if competition is fierce? Who cares? every single person we know has to live somewhere, right? And in every market condition we're ever going to encounter, opportunity is everywhere. So, I have a lot of members who started their real estate careers back in 2007 and 8, right? And you know what? There were transactions that were happening then, right? There were closings that were taking place. And no matter what happens with the market in the future, and literally no matter what happens to us in our lives, I truly believe that every single thing we want for ourselves and for our loved ones, it's possible through relationships. So, like my relationship with Tristan and Nick is what's brought me here today, right? It's more than just a business connection, it's a friendship. Like, if I'm in Michigan and not sleeping on Nick's couch, he's probably not going to be too pleased about that. Right. And if Tristan finds himself in Tampa, I will clean out a stall for him. He can stay with me. That'd be great.
You'd stay to the horses.
Yes, that's right. Move the horses aside for the night. It'd be good. Now, the thing about relationships is that they really only live inside conversation. So, like I've been married, oh my God, I'm old, 26 years. It's hard to believe. And I know for sure that relationship lives inside the conversations we have. It's the place we raise our kids. It's the place we do most of our learning. And yes, it's the place we negotiate our transactions. It's the place we recruit more agents to our teams or our brokerages. Our ability as human beings to have conversations is what sets us apart from everything else. It's what makes us so special. And, again, I'll just emphasize that the more conversations we have, the more contract opportunities we're going to create for ourselves. So, let's take a moment and set like a giant BHAG style goal, a big hairy ass goal. Think of a GCI number that's so scary. Like, whoo, I'd really have to be doing something special to get to that number. And whatever that number is, you can do the math and figure out, well, how many sales do you have to reach that level of income? Well, okay, you've done the math, but where are those sales going to come from? How do you get the sales, right? Well, they come from opportunities. A lot of those could be through relationship. A lot of those could be through leads. And, I like to say that I would much prefer to work with a referred person than with someone who just, is searching online and finds us. That person is likely very loyal. They've got the right expectations already. It's a much easier, shorter sales cycle. So relationships are really the place where I choose to focus in building my business, and where, by the way, the most successful real estate agents choose to build theirs. Last month, I spoke for the Georgia Association of Realtors. They had their annual conference in Destin, and I ran a survey of members, and they reported that 81% of agents get most of their business through relationships. So that's your past client and sphere referrals, right? So if you want more closings, you must have more conversations. And, how do you start conversations? Well, there's no magic there. You ask questions, right? So I'll be the data geek guy here for a moment, and I'll plot this out for you. So whatever that income is, divide it by the number of transactions, right? Figure out how many appointments you would need to actually close those transactions. What percentage of the things you put under contract actually close, right? Think about what those numbers are, and then ask yourself, well, gosh, how do I know how many relationships I need? Right? That's the real challenge here, is how many relationships do you have to get that number of opportunities to earn the GCI, right? And the math that we've done, which, by the way, we're nurturing about 26 million contacts for real estate professionals today. So we got a pretty sizable data set that shows us that the accurate number there is about 100 relationships turns into 12 transactions over the course of a year on average. Okay. And I say relationships. So, is a relationship someone who registered for our open house 2 years ago?
Could be.
Probably not. Probably not, right?
Yeah, if you haven't
They
followed up with them, absolutely
probably don't
not, right?
remember. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So the way I like to think about it is, would they recognize you and say hi at the grocery store?
Good metric.
Like pour your whole database into your imaginary grocery store and start pushing the cart up and down the aisles and ask yourself, would that person say hi? If it's an IDX lead that never called you back and you've been nurturing them for 2 years, I promise you they have no clue who you are. The reality in business is that if you have 100 people who really refuse to let their friends and family do business with anyone else, like, you almost don't need brand new leads. It's amazing what you can build for yourself through relationships. So, and by the way, Brian, I'm not the only person who said the fortune's in the follow-up, right?
No,
I'm not the only person who said your database is your largest asset. The challenge, the challenge is not knowing that that's important. The challenge is figuring out what the heck to say to these people. How do you do it? What do you say to someone who you transacted with a couple of years ago? Do you keep sending them market updates all the time? Doesn't that feel too transactional now? Like, what do we say? And that fear of, what if I say the wrong thing? That can stop you from reaching out to your database.
Absolutely.
Then another fear we have to encounter is, well, gosh, when should we say it? Like, is there a perfect time of day? What's the best time of day? What's the best day of the week? And then, of course, well, how often is the right amount of often? Brian and I, we've met previously. We have not been like super tight besties calling each other every now and then, but we know who each other are, right?
Absolutely.
We've got that kind of industry connection, arm's length relationship. It would be weird if the only thing I ever sent him was, hey, bro, how you been? Right? Because we're not there yet. And it would be equally weird if all I ever did was send him marketing stuff, right? So, you really have to think about the segments of your database and how to send the right content to the right people. And that's why we've created LCA Nurture. So this is something that we built in partnership with Nick and Tristan, and every member of LabCoatAgents has access to it. So all you have to do is go to happygrasshopper.com/meet-LCA-nurture. And that is where we're going to make it really easy for you to know what to say, when to say it, and how often to keep saying it. So I'll give you a breakdown what's included here. It's 41 touches per contact per year. Does that feel like a lot?
It's a big number.
It's a big number, right? So keep in mind, these are people who would recognize you at the grocery store. It's the right frequency for that people. It's the wrong frequency for a brand new lead. So we'll start with email. Once every 3 weeks, not about real estate, not salesy email is what works really effectively here. And, I'll tell you where this comes from. Prior to founding Happy Grasshopper, I owned 6 other companies. So I've built and scaled and exited, and I've built and failed, right? I've done both of those things. And in one of my previous companies, our sales cycle was about 3 years. So we had to figure out how to nurture prospects for a long time without sending salesy content. And all of that knowledge plus 10 years experience at Happy Grasshopper goes into creating messaging that people would like to receive, that will start the conversations you need to have. Now, email is great. It's not enough. We support those with 6 to 12 texts and another 6 to 12 ringless voicemail drops per contact per year. So I'll give you the breakdown here. Birthdays, transaction anniversaries, up to 6 holidays per year, and then once a quarter, a lead harvesting message. So Brian, let's imagine that I'm your past client. Right. And my birthday is a week from today, right? So, I get a text from you. It says, hey, Dan, it's Brian. Am I the first person to wish you a happy birthday this year? Right? What am I going to do when I get that from you? I'm going to say, oh my gosh, thank you. Right? And now in my brain, I know he's someone who cares to reach out, and he did it in a way that I didn't lose him in the crush of people on Facebook. Like my dentist will send me a postcard that looks like marketing. That doesn't feel great. But a text from the guy who sold me a house a few years back, that feels great, right? Now, on my actual birthday, I missed a call from you, Brian. And I look down at my phone, there's your name, and then I listen to the voicemail, and it's your voice wishing me a happy birthday, right? So that also feels great. And it's a few minutes to get it set up, and then it just runs automatically throughout the year. So that same kind of 1-2 combo for transaction anniversaries, holidays, and the quarterly lead harvesting messages, plus all kinds of great social media content and optional handwritten cards. Those are a la carte. So all of that is built into LCA Nurture. And I want to help you understand how different this is from other services you may be using.
Please.
Because, if you think about it, everything sends messaging today. Does the world need another system that can send a message? Heck no, right? What's the big difference is, even though it's easy to send a message, it's hard to send a message that creates the desired result. Okay, so we'll talk about some metrics here. Email open rates, according to MailChimp and Constant Contact for real estate, they top out at a max of about 18%. And in our system, we see much better metrics than that. So just speaking about email, we get about 99% deliverability without being put into a spam or a promotional folder. The average open rate in our system is 38.2%. So that's a much bigger difference. And the way we're able to create these results is by studying the data over long periods of time. So, for example, when it comes to subject lines, like which do you think would be more effective? A subject line with an emoji or without an emoji?
I'm going to take a shot here. I'm saying with an emoji.
With an emoji. See, that was my hunch too. I assumed that would be the thing that would catch our eye. It would cause more people to open it. And it turns out that the winner here is actually the question mark, which I didn't expect. But every year we send hundreds of millions of messages, and the data says that use of an emoji is a neutral influencer to actually significantly influence more people opening a message. Find ways to use a question mark in the subject line.
That's a great piece of advice, Dan. I had no idea. That's great. And how many emails do you guys send a year so we can get an idea what kind of data set? It's not 100, it's not 200, it's not 1,000. What is that number?
Hundreds of millions. Yes,
hundreds of millions.
Currently nurturing about 26 million contacts for real estate professionals.
So you've got a little data, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, we're not guessing here.
Excellent.
We're just reading the reports and doing what the data tells us to do. Similarly, like if we take a look at an HTML message versus a text message, like which do you think would perform more effectively?
I'm going to guess text.
Text. Okay. And you were absolutely right here.
I had a 50-50 shot. Perfect.
You did indeed. You did indeed. Now, the reason text works so much better here is because all of our brains have a filter, and the filter says, if it looks like marketing, it's safe to ignore. We can do that. When a message looks like this, that's really the kind of thing that we're scanning our inboxes for. The sort of thought process we all have is, oh, what do I need to pay attention to in here? What's important? What's not important? If it looks like marketing, it's just, going to be filtered out. And that doesn't mean there's not a time to do that. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but just look at the stats here on this send. This is a 46% open rate on that message. That's a really high open rate. And, not for nothing, that's a recruitment message to people who do not know the sender.
Wow.
So, it's possible to get these really high open rates if you study the math and you do the right things over time. Now, That said, there is a place for HTML. And every month we send all of our members a monthly communication plan. And it shows them what's coming up, what we're going to send out this month. And this kind of thing absolutely is appropriate to send as HTML because we don't want it to be perceived as personal communication, right? This is not intended to generate replies. It's intended to inform, right? Different purpose there. So always remember that if it looks like marketing, it's safe to ignore. And, just think of what message you're sending. Ask yourself, does the reader know me or not know me? If they know you and it looks like marketing, chances are you could improve the message by making it feel more personal.
Gotcha.
Content optimization. This is a topic that I've studied from multiple perspectives over time. We have a team of professional copywriters. Every copywriter is kind of an armchair psychologist, if they're any good. Like, good copywriters have to understand how people think, but we also want to leverage technology here at a very high level. So we've plugged every message we've ever written into Google's natural language processing AI. Okay, so think about that. That's a ton of messages. All of that data has gone into the AI so that we can classify the different elements of the message for tone, for voice, for brevity. How long can a message be? How short should a message be? How formal should it sound? How informal is too informal? And, again, we're crunching all the data there to allow us to make really good suggestions for people who know you. So, here, for example, we have an email that's intended to go to people who know you, past clients and Sphere specifically. Subject line reads, Blockbuster finally pivots. Okay, there's no question mark there. Also no emoji. It reads, hi, first name, like we're calling the reader by their name. We're asking, did you see this? Blockbuster's last store is now an Airbnb rental. They've set it up with 90s furniture, TV, VCR, and all the movies you can watch for $4 per night. And then we have a picture of that Airbnb setup. So, why this topic? Why would we choose to send something about this? And the reason would be that most people will have positive feelings associated with this topic. Like, everybody's heard the Blockbuster story. Everybody knows Netflix crushed Blockbuster. Everybody knows they were huge and omnipresent and everywhere, and now there's one left, right? So we're not asking them to learn a bunch of new stuff here. We're riding the pathways that already exist in their brain, okay? And then we're pivoting here with a smart call to conversation that turns the subject back to generating real estate opportunity for you. So it says, speaking of real estate changes, do you know anyone who's thinking of moving? Or even someone we could convince to move if they got enough money for their home, right? Now, everybody's brain can answer those questions where they might not know what you're asking for if you ask for a referral. This question, they know the answer to. When you use the referral word, they might not understand. Okay?
Well, and I love it. You've given something. Like, if I saw this, it would make me chuckle, right? It's not something that I'm just looking at and going, you take the picture out and you take all that, and all of a sudden, do you know anyone who's looking to buy or sell real estate? I see that in a lot of people's, response line in their email. Well, that doesn't excite me. And by the way, you didn't offer me anything. The law of reciprocity hasn't kicked in. This is law of reciprocity stuff here, right? Like, hey, this is really cool. Full disclosure, I didn't know about this. But I think it's really cool. And I would, what I'm probably going to do? I'm going to probably show it to my wife. So that's what we're talking about. And I love the engagement that you're getting versus the market's really hot. You can sell your house in 5 minutes. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate what you're doing.
They're getting that from so many other people. That, we have to demonstrate first we care about them more than we care about the commission.
Amen.
So, it's like not rocket science here. It's not. If it's worth your time to sit and take what I've taught you and do it yourself, by all means, do it. Implement, do it. Whatever your choice is, do it. Okay. If you'd like my help with this, know that every single message we write is always done with respect to the most important thing we do as a brand, which we call our queen bee role. If you think about what the most important job is in a beehive, it's the queen's job. Like without the queen, the hive does not have a reason to exist. And at Happy Grasshopper, if we're not creating messaging that generates positive response for you, we don't have a reason to exist. That is what we must do. So every single month when we send out that communication plan, we report to you what the data has taught us. Like here we're saying in June, our members selected the email, the forgotten generation, more than any other, right? A close second was, have you heard about Bunny? Do you know who Bunny is? This is so awesome. It's a dog that's been taught to use language by pressing buttons on.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, it's so neat, right? It's a great conversation starter. And so we're saying, hey, these were the most popular messages. And then here are the messages that have the best open rate. Quick question, first name enjoyed a 46% open rate. And I'll tell you that of all the subject lines we've tested, variations of quick question are the ones that universally get the highest open rates.
That's great information.
And
here's what I love about what you're doing, Dan. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked to in the last 10 years who are real estate agents who go, I would do this, I would do this, I would do this. I just don't know what to say. Guess what? You don't have to know what to say. Take Dan's stuff, copy it, and say what he says. Well, how do we know? It only has a 46% open rate, or we've got all this data. And so if you're a person who struggles with the creative, and I don't know that I struggle with it, but sometimes I struggle to be disciplined and set aside time. Why not rip off and deploy something from somebody else who's already having the success is going to test it for you?
Life is simple when you do what works. Like it's so ridiculously simple. That does not mean it's easy, right? No. It's hard to be consistent, and consistency equals professionalism. So, for all of us, we all have to think of what's the highest and best use of our time. And, rather than you spending a decade to figure this out like I have, you could just subscribe to LCA Nurture and it's done, right? We create the content, we send the content for you, we make it stupid easy, and we also make it incredibly inexpensive for you. So let's cover that. It's $47 to start, and then it's $470 for the year. Okay. And that program includes all of the 41 touches, plus the social media content, plus the a la carte handwritten cards.
So, and how many emails, texts? I mean, how many people can I send this to in a year if we're for $470?
Yep. This account holds up to 250 contacts. Okay. So that's more than most agents will have in their sphere and past clients. And, for ballers like you who've been at it for a minute, you may need more. So we can always add contacts to an account. Now, I want to show you an example. We've talked about email. Here's an example of a quarterly lead harvesting text message. Right? This is pretty straightforward. It's Dan. How are you? It's been a little while since we've touched base. Is there anything I can help you with? If I get that from Brian, and Brian was my agent, I have to respond. Like, just common courtesy demands that I respond. That keeps him top of mind with me. It reminds me, oh yeah, you know what? I might have somebody who needs to talk to him. Okay. And it's not the direct ask. You're not saying, hey, who do you know you can connect me to? You're just offering help. And then the brain of your recipient is doing all the rest of the work there. And, we see how much of a difference this has made for our members. Like Ken and Velma here, they learned about us through YouTube and LabCoatAgents. They're getting these 30 to 50% open rates on their email. They say we sent our first mass text using the It's Been a While script, the one I just reviewed with you. And they say we got one listing that just went live today. There'll be a buy associated with it after we close. We were able to refer a client to a commercial agent who's looking for land to build an RV and boat storage facility. So again,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that made them a little bit more than $470.
I'm going to guess. Yeah, I'm going to guess. Like the average ROI our members report to us is over 800%. Wow. So we don't have to do very much to get there in most markets.
No.
Now, even if people don't reply and say, oh, come list my house, or, here, I've got 3 deals lined up for you. Your past clients in Sphere almost always want to hear from you. And, there's no transaction connected to this result. And yet this is an awesome result. Our member sent that same text to his past client, and then she wrote this wonderful post about him and put it on Facebook and shared it with everyone.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I want someone to put a post about me on Facebook. That's fabulous. I mean, a positive one. But
I mean,
yeah,
this
that's
is
huge.
the thing, right? Because people are going to hesitate about reaching out to these past clients. They're going to feel that sense of fear. What if they're not happy with the home I sold them? What if they listed their house with someone else? What if they're upset with me because I didn't follow up with them? Anybody who's in real estate is busy, right? And that means you probably have people in your life you wish you'd stayed in touch with that you didn't. That's very normal. If you feel that way, just forgive yourself and know that they also didn't stay in touch with you, right?
Absolutely.
So October is the perfect time to reach out to those folks. It's the perfect time to get your database in shape and be ready to send out all your holiday messaging and generate new business into the new year.
Well, and what's the statistic? You probably know this, Dan. Like, what percentage of people say that they would work with their agent again? It's in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's like 88%, 89%, something like that. NAR reports on this. They say they'll use the same agent, and only 11% actually do.
And I don't feel like that's because the agent did a bad job. I don't feel like that's because they didn't like because they were lying on an exit interview. They just forgot. And you know what? Tell me the name of the guy who sold you a car 6 years ago. Most people can't do that. It doesn't mean that guy wasn't a nice guy. It's the same thing. We think we're very memorable, but guess what? Consider the amount of data we intake every day in this world. Remembering somebody I met 5 years ago, even if it was a significant thing, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to forget us, but that's exactly what we're doing here. We're just staying top of mind so we can move from 11% to 20, 30, 40, heck, maybe even 80%, right?
It's so important to do that. So important to do it, Brian. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm always paying attention to the chat, and I want to answer Gary's question.
Oh, please.
He's up in Canada and he's asking if we're ready to go up there. Yes, we absolutely are. We have tons of members across Canada, and our service works just fine there. You will be delighted to know that when you enter your Canadian address, we even correct the spellings, and we put special Canadian content that's available for you. Nice. So yes, I'm an American, but I know what Boxing Day is. Hey, so, we have content ready to go for you.
Awesome.
Now, I want to show you another example of a message. This one we call the Barry Jenkins script, right? You guys should all know who Barry Jenkins is.
No, very, very well.
And I love the result here. He sent this message. This is a ringless voicemail. So you just record it once. Their phones don't ring. You send it out to your past clients in Sphere. And he sent that message. He got 2 listings from it within 24 hours. Then he got a 3rd listing 11 days later. Right. So that is a lead harvesting voicemail drop. And it's important to send those once a quarter. You don't want to oversend, always asking for business, but you want to make sure you've got the scripts written, ready to go. So my staff creates the content, it's loaded in your account, it's ready for you to send. And I know you've got that link in the chat, but I'm just going to point this out to you here. It's happygrasshopper.com/meet-LCA nurture.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a great opportunity, Dan, and we appreciate you being here and being on here. And I can't say this enough. Where are you going to get a copywriter for $470 a year? I mean, if you even just copied Dan's content and that's all you did with it, where are you going to get a copywriter for $470 a year? It's a fabulous opportunity. And, I hope we can remember this number, 88 and 11. That's a horrible number. And guess what? If you're not following up in some sort of systematic way, you're falling on the 11 side, not on the 88 side. So
it's true. It's true. Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Brian. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the screen share there so we can see each other's faces a bit more. I want to make sure if there were any other questions in the chat that we get to those.
I don't think we have any other questions. You did a great job explaining what's going on, so we don't have a lot of questions today. But awesome. Yeah, well, any final thoughts for us today, Dan, before we sign off?
Yes, I absolutely have some. So remember, the cyclists suck. We're at that point in this session where some of you are like, yeah, I've got these intentions, and you're going to take action, you're going to encounter a little bit of pain. So let me prep you for that, right? When you choose to move forward with LCA Nurture, you're going to take your contacts from wherever they are and load them into the system so that we can send out messaging. For some of you, you're like, oh, that's too much pain. I guess I just won't reach out to these people. So let me help you overcome that hurdle. I'm going to share another link with you. It's happygrasshopper.com/white glove. You can book a one-on-one call with a member of my staff who will help you export your contacts from wherever they are and import them into LCA Nurture so you're ready to send out your messaging. So those are my final thoughts. Let's expect to walk that path of mastery together. And I'll definitely look forward to being part of your success story.
Absolutely. So again, Dan, thank you so much for being here today. I love the cycle of suck. It really is a real thing. We've all experienced, anyone who's being honest with himself has experienced that. And I appreciate that. So LCA, give this a shot. And I promise, we're not giving them a 100% guarantee, money back guarantee or anything like that. But I feel
actually.
Oh, never mind. Look at me. I've been making stuff up. So only 100% guarantee that you're going to make some money using Dan's product. And by the way, like I said, the thing that I love about this more than anything else, Happy Grasshopper is a great standalone system. And I've used it for years. I, got introduced to it, I think 2015 and 2014 when Dan and I met for the first time. But here's the reality. Most people don't use it because they don't have the content. We've solved that problem for you. And basically, I love it. Dan, I'm hearing an objection. Well, Dan, it's too hard for me to transfer my contacts. No problem. Just go to this site, which, by the way, is in the chat, and we'll do it for you. So I feel like Dan's closed every single one of your objections here today, and I appreciate him being here. But take a chance. I mean, if there's a lower probability of a chance, I can't imagine what it is. It's only $470 a year, and if you think if you think Dan's cycle of sucks, then he'll even give you your money back. So again, LCA, watch this replay. There's a lot of great information here and a lot of great things. It's October, and we're basically starting 2022 here in about a month, as far as I'm concerned. So start off 2022 with a new plan, and maybe that new plan is to implement something like Happy Grasshopper to make sure that you get more referrals. So, imagine if your referrals double in 2022 over what it was in 2021. How much easier is that? What a better way to do business than keep cold calling people and doing open houses. Not that we're against those things, but it's so much nicer now. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Dan, again, thanks for some great content.
Such a pleasure. You're welcome.
And we'll see everybody soon. Thanks, LCA.
Bye, everyone.